He didn't steal the throne, he won it. That was the first thing they needed you to forget. Everything that followed, the coup dressed as a rescue, the war dressed as liberation, was built to make you cheer for the return of a crown that had already changed hands, fairly, under the very law Wakanda calls sacred. And the most disturbing part? The king you were told to mourn may have been the only honest ruler Wakanda ever crowned. We'll get to that. Here is what Black Panther was actually built to make you ignore. You were told a simple story. A good son loses a good father. He returns home to carry a legacy of protection and wisdom. He kneels. He drinks the herb. He becomes king. Grief becomes destiny, and destiny becomes the whole emotional engine of the film. The film wants you to feel ancient continuity here. Bloodline, protocol, a ceremony older than the nation itself, passed down clean, sacred, untouchable. But look closer at the mechanism underneath the ceremony. This is not a blessing. It is a legal infrastructure. Wakanda's throne does not pass by birthright alone. It passes by combat, witnessed, sanctioned, binding on every tribe present. That detail sits quietly in the background of every coronation scene. The film never lets you sit with what it actually means. Imagine a nation whose entire government can change hands in a single fight, and calling that stability instead of what it really is, volatile by design. The story frames T'Challa's claim as destiny, but destiny is doing a lot of quiet work to cover for what is actually just a legal technicality, one his family benefited from for generations, and one his cousin was about to use exactly as written, with nothing hidden. Notice how the entire supporting cast is introduced as protectors of the bloodline, not enforcers of the law. Their loyalty is framed as virtue. It is never questioned once, not even when the law itself produces a different winner. This is the suppressed setup. The deception was never a lie, it was a law, dressed up as fate, and enforced only when it protected the family already sitting on the throne. Watch this scene again. This is not a family argument staged for the cameras. This is a court proceeding. Formal challenge, formal witnesses, formal acceptance. The film shoots it with reverence. Slow, ceremonial, scored like a wedding, lit like a sacrament. Now hold that image next to this one. Same ceremony, same law, same witnesses, the same elders who bless the first coronation. But the film's camera turns cold the instant the outcome changes. The music turns predatory. The lighting shifts to shadow and ash. Nothing about the legal mechanism changed here, only the emotional framing did, on command. This is the conspiracy hiding in plain sight. Legitimacy in this story was never about the law. It was about who the camera had already decided to protect before the fight even began. Look at what this scene actually establishes, long before the throne is ever in play. A methodical mind, a planner, a man who researches, waits, and executes with precision. This is not the profile of a man about to act on blind rage. This is the profile of a man who intends to win. And here is the evidence the film hopes you rush past. Killmonger does not hide his plan. He states it, plainly, to the very people sworn to enforce Wakandan protocol. Every promise he makes in this scene, he keeps, scene by scene, for the rest of the film. No betrayal, no hidden agenda, just execution. Compare that unwavering obedience to every other character in this story who claims virtue while quietly enforcing decades of engineered silence. The army did not need convincing. The ancient law had already spoken for them. This is the moment the film almost lets you see the truth, and then buries it in 12 seconds of villain-coded fire imagery, scored like a massacre instead of a strategy. Ask yourself what this act actually is. Not chaos, not madness. A newly crowned king, facing an existential threat from a deposed royal family, severing the one biological mechanism they could use to restore their claim. Every empire in recorded history has protected its own succession this exact way. The film simply refuses to let you call it that out loud. And here's the volatile turn the film never names directly. This is not a war room, assembling a lawful re-challenge under Wakandan protocol. This is a coup being planned in real time, by the very bloodline the law had just ruled against, dressed in the visual language of sanctuary and mercy. Imagine watching the people you were raised to trust, quietly deciding that the ancient law only counts when it protects them personally. This is the chilling reality buried inside the final battle. Wakabi's soldiers do not switch sides because they were persuaded by argument. They switch because tribal loyalty always outweighs stated conviction. In under 2 seconds, the moment family blood re-enters the frame, an entire ideology evaporates without a single line of dialogue explaining why. Even the most disciplined, most loyal military order in the film abandons its sworn king the moment the family with the older claim reappears. That is not justice restoring itself. That is a mechanism of bloodline always overriding a mechanism of law, in real time, on screen, disguised as heroism. Watch what the film grants him here. Not a trial, not captivity offered as a peer. A single, warm-lit frame, the only one he receives in the entire film, timed exactly to the moment he stops being a threat to anyone. This is the unveiling underneath the tragedy. Mercy was never offered to him as a king, or even as a cousin. It was offered to him as a corpse, once he could no longer challenge the story being written about him. And here is the suppressed reality the ending quietly confirms without ever saying it. The new king does not apologize for what his father did on this exact street. He builds. On the same block where the throne's original crime took place, wrapped now in the comfortable language of generosity and outreach. This is how every institution survives its own history. It does not confess. It constructs something photogenic directly on top of what it buried, and calls the construction healing. Imagine every regime that has ever fallen and risen again, telling itself the same reassuring story, that this time the throne was reclaimed for the right reasons, by the right family, under the right law. The predatory part was never the war. It was the paperwork written afterward to make the winner sound inevitable. He didn't reclaim his throne. He stole back a crown his cousin had already won fairly. Power was never protecting a bloodline in this story. It was protecting a narrative, and deciding, only after the fighting ended, which king deserved to have his coronation remembered as a triumph, and which one deserved to have his erased as a cautionary tale. So ask yourself, was Killmonger a usurper, or was he the only king Wakanda ever crowned by its own ancient law, right before the story quietly changed the rules on him? If this truth disturbed you, good. Smash like and subscribe. The Pulse Cinema has more dark truths waiting.